Dissonance. It is this word that encapsulates not just how everything went wrong, but also why Blair, or the channel Illuminaughtii, was doomed from the start. Her channel is one part efficient businesswoman and one part unstable, vengeful manipulator. This mixture of image was so conflicted, a single tweet was all that was needed to spark a rapid chain of events that revealed the secret long history of a channel that was believed to have no significant personality. Interest then shifted in covering her extensive list of wrongdoings.
Illuminaughtii situation.
The accumulated viewership of such was so substantial that it surpassed her once phenomenally successful channel that once aimed at exposing seeding companies and individuals. She responded with a lawsuit, and her viewership responded with not existing. Since then, there have been an endless stream of videos covering Blair, the people exposing her, and her lawsuit. With these coming to a conclusion, this video will attempt to showcase the full downfall of Illuminaughtii. But first, I partnered with MyHeritage and took one of their DNA kits. I'm actually more French than German. Would you look at that? This is essentially the kit I got. You just rub this swab along the inside of your cheek for 30 to 60 seconds. And I guess right now it's just a waiting game. I'm not really sure what to expect. I do have a German background, a lot of Mexican. I don't know, it feels like the results would be really straightforward with that. I should mention a cool thing about MyHeritage is if you look at its privacy policy, it says right there that MyHeritage has never sold or licensed genetic data or health data and will never do so in the future. MyHeritage has this neat feature that allows you to enhance and color restore photos. Okay, so the results are in. Oh. Yeah, I guess I'm not really German. I'm actually more French than German. Would you look at that? MyHeritage can also match your DNA to others. As it shows here, I have 6,200 DNA matches. This is kind of a family finder of sorts. I have my grandparents' first cousin, second cousin, parents' second cousin, overall a ton of results from Match DNA. MyHeritage has a promotion right now. Click the link in the description box or scan the QR code. And use the coupon code JTK to receive a 10% discount when ordering the kit. Sponsor over, back to the video. Within the burgeoning creator space, there are channels that grow rapidly after posting a few videos. These tend to fill underserved niches or create superior content within their genres. Illuminaughtii was not one of these channels. It is not entirely clear what Blair, the creator and host of the channel, did prior to 2019. As her footprint was so insignificant, the earliest Wayback Machine capture of her channel dates back to the start of 2019. However, her channel was established May 9, 2013, and there is evidence that she posted between that time, like this 2017 collaboration video, that while it is only a collaboration through the creation of videos made on a similar topic, it does show a few seconds of Blair and links to her channel, the same channel she still uses. This also reveals she made a genre of video known as storytime videos. This means she not only deleted her side of this collaboration, but also all of her videos prior to 2019. Yet, a few have been archived through other means. The reason these have been removed becomes apparent upon examination.
Girls don't talk about their shit, their poops, right? Well, I'm gonna talk about my poops because this is a story about poop.
Larger chunks of this video cannot be shown uninterrupted as Blair has copyright-struck channels posting it in the past, and it remains in the YouTube Content ID system. The crux is, while on a date, she clogged her toilet.
It was huge. I'm looking at it and I don't even see the hole for the toilet.
Blair's storytime videos are videos where the creator tells of wild happenings in her private life are dated at least back to 2015.
We decided to go out for a movie date, and the movie we're gonna see is that new James Bond movie, Spectre, that's out.
Spectre in the United States premiered November 2015. It was around this time that Sarah J. Warren also premiered.
I like that.
Sarah J. Warren is unapologetically feminist, and if they don't like it, then I would love to drink their overprivileged male tears, okay?
Sarah J. Warren was created to star in Tommy C's satirical news show Get to the Point. Tommy played the role of a sexist alcoholic that was kicked out of mainstream media. Blair's character, or what she portrayed, was clear even just through the name.
She was sort of the modern woman, annoying SJW.
And her name was Sarah J. Warren, SJW.
Sarah J. And she came up with that herself.
Despite the effort and collaboration of other creatives, Tommy states the project was a failure. As such, none of Blair's works gained purchase, until she began producing a simple yet lucrative style video late 2018.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. It's Blair, or the Illuminati, and I'm so glad to have you guys here today with me on another wild ride through the r/anti-MLM subreddit. I think I can kind of sort of tell this is a favorite amongst our fans here on the channel.
These videos are of Blair reading what are presumably the top posts of the subreddit that is the subject of the video. Being that Reddit has a function where one can easily sort by the top, hence most popular post, all she had to do was read through these and add some commentary. She often interspliced some stock footage and evolved the videos to include her avatar that struck different poses depending on what is being said. This is a style found in many communities across YouTube. Being that the head of her avatar is the Eye of Providence that is tied to many things such as secret societies, it is a nod to her channel name iilluminaughtii, that differs in spelling to the group by the word naughty as to be disobedient, and has an additional eye on both the start and the end of the name. This avatar turned out to be quite convenient as she more and more began to shift focus to the r/anti-MLM subreddit. MLM, or multi-level marketing, is often referred to as a pyramid scheme, and where one recruits unwitting subjects to sell often overpriced and difficult to sell products. The pyramid shape comes into play as a share of the revenue goes to the recruiter, which is a point of the scheme, as recruiters of recruiters receive cuts from all below them, and to win is to sit on the top layers of the pyramid. Blair had been covering this subreddit so much that it had its own separate category on her YouTube homepage. Being that those who join MLMs are often desperate, ignorant, or foolish, their tactics mimic these traits. So the focus of Blair's videos were more so on the absurdity of tactics used to sell products. This was her path to success. I also want to give a quick little shout out to the 150 people who have all followed me within the past week. I don't know what is happening there. Blair's success, above all else, is attributed to a rapid rate of uploads. In March, her channel had jumped to 96,000 subscribers. Here she would upload 2 videos daily, largely consisting of subreddit coverage. In this screenshot, she abandoned the larger focus on MLMs to shift to popular Reddit themes. However, this screenshot in May shows that her MLM coverage was once again gaining prominence on her channel. And by August 2019, as per the bottom of this archive page, she had made 36 videos on MLMs and made a video dissecting what an MLM is, the trailer for her channel. But she was not the only one growing from covering Reddit. There was The Click, One Topic, and r/. While many channels exist in this genre, these 3 are unique to Blair's story in that some would become friends, but eventually would all take on an adversarial role. r/, as many Reddit channels did in 2019, grew tremendously, yet few as fast. Though he had only started uploading in January of 2019, by February he was getting over 30 million views a month. This aroused suspicion. Blair during this time took it upon herself to point out the suspicious growth. Without much more to go on than this almost unheard of growth, the drama died down. But what remained was the start of a history. One of hypocrisy, manipulation, and revenge. Her actions and her responses would repeat on wholly different people. This begins with Azothan's video.
I feel that I must state up front that for the last 2.5 years I was involved in a romantic relationship with the YouTuber known as iilluminaughtii. This relationship ended recently.
Azothan released this video on April 19th, 2019, in where he admits to secretly recording a phone call with Blair. It was not illegal, as Colorado, in terms of calls, is a one-party consent state.
I have seen your fucking Twitter and the bullshit you've been spewing on there.
The harassment,
You fucking asshat.
the abuse.
Because God knows why, because you're bitter about a fucking breakup because your cash cow fucking left you. Fuck off!
Just can't go on anymore.
Azothan fails to paint a clear picture of his conflict with Blair. He claims Blair is threatening legal action if he were to make a video on her, but this conflicts with the intent the text message is expressing.
Threatening legal action, were I to make a video about her activities in any way. And you can see that despite violating no laws, making no threats to dox her, making no claims of any illegal activity whatsoever, she was already willing to threaten prosecution.
Azathan has claimed to share the audio of the call anonymously. Why this matters is because, apparent by a second video Azathan released, the full call contained private information. The release of the entire call could be why Blair claims Azathan was threatening to dox her. Back to the first video, it turns out that Blair was in contact with someone threatening to dox Azathan.
A Discord user known as Cracker Snatcher, who had made threats of violence against me, as well as attempting to locate and disseminate my location and name. I was saddened to be informed by my friends that she had joined a Warcraft 3 Discord server solely for the purpose of providing and exchanging personal information with this extremely dangerous and unstable individual.
This claim, at least by the evidence shown on screen, is not entirely substantiated, with the conversation being about boys being gay and rejecting men and going to war or prison and dying and doing drugs and truth-seeking and, of course, saving the world. From Blair's side, it is only clear she wanted to speak to this individual, but the contents of the private conversation are not shown, and thus there is no proof, besides anecdotal, that she was attempting to deliver Azathan's dox. While their conflict did not lead to much due to the lack of strong evidence or the general disinterest towards Azathan's video, there are claims that made over time would ring more and more true.
An early friendship with Fresh helped mold her content, but also led her to believe that anyone else utilizing that general framework was a copycat. I listened to endless rants about Misery Box, deservedly, Bumfries, and even Voicey here being nothing more than mediocre mimics of herself and Fresh. Which leads us to the original step she took into the commentary community. Her call-out video against r/, claiming that he was using viewbots. What fueled this was her anger at being so quickly outpaced by another channel.
Blair later deleted her video on r/, but the jealousy of competing channels outperforming her or merely existing in proximity would remain. With a person so reputation-minded, one that believes reputation is molded with intent instead of forming passively, Blair knew she had weaknesses and quickly sought to remove them. Her history as Sarah J. Warren greatly conflicted with her new image of a compassionate, investigative creator who sought to expose the wrongdoings of companies.
Yeah, some of them were privated as per Blair's request a couple months ago when she was going to sue Keemstar for saying she had an STD. So I cooperated and I privated the videos. But before she left, she deleted the private videos too. So that to clear up some of the confusion on.
Tommy explains how Blair still had access to his channel and why now only short clips of her time as Sarah J. Warren exist online. This is explained through a dense story of Tommy and friends calling an employee of Blair's obese, something he took offense to even though he partook in verbalizing similar comments towards others. This is the stated intent, one that makes it appear that she disassociated through compassion and not to hide her history. And it worked for the time being.
No, she's not too big for her britches. She's fucking stupid. She's not cut out for this. That's something we can definitely say from knowing her behind the scenes.
Yeah, because she freaks out when she makes these videos.
Anything that takes any sort of like stress, any stress comes down on her, anything that takes brain cells is where she just fucking falls apart.
Blair, in her efforts to remove her history, had only added more to it. While she had succeeded in wiping those old videos, these were replaced with Tommy C's testimony that they existed alongside her underhanded actions to remove them. What's more, she was now attempting to remove coverage of this.
Shit goes down, we know about it, we talk about it, and then all of a sudden, I get a strike this morning on a video that was entitled, "Strike This Bitch."
Blair, as later revealed, had not hit this video with a copyright strike. Rather, she informed an artist whose work was used to create the thumbnail for said video, and they struck it. This back and forth lasted for several months, yet coverage of her interactions seldom gained purchase. Even Azathan's new claims largely went ignored.
So here's Aslan's tweet right here. When Illuminaughtii told me that as a stripper, yes, I'm reading that correctly, she took clients into the champagne room and would threaten them with violence, lie to the bouncers about being molested, and have them beat the person up if they didn't give her more money. Should have been the last red flag.
Blair had made enemies within the commentary community. These sour ties hardly affected her new ventures and relationships, as by January 2020, she had a new partner known as Oz Media, who was also creating similar videos covering subreddits. Blair, Oz Media, and a few other channels such as The Click, Wonderstruck, and One Topic had joined in creating Sad Milk, a collaboration channel. There are more channels, but these are the most relevant to Blair. The content consisted of the group reacting to memes and the like while in a group call. As Sad Milk grew, Blair began shifting her own videos towards the ever-popular video essay genre. Though she stuck with the main theme of coverage of MLMs, her videos were hardly limited in topic. While her Reddit videos had her at 2.5 million views a month, her video essays doubled that. In September, as seen in the Social Blade graph, her channel had lost 34 million views, likely due to the mass deletion of her Reddit videos. Though this new genre brought in far more interest, the consequences of this shift were large, but not entirely understood until several years later. Both the success and issues of such are boiled down to her rate of uploads. While nowhere near the pace of 2 videos a day she once had, Blair would still upload 3 to 5 videos weekly. While some channels opt to delve into subjects to get a unique perspective, refine the script, and fact-check all the claims multiple times, Blair chose to do none of this. Her videos were laden with mistakes and constantly removed. Comparing this Wayback Machine screenshot of June 17, 2020 to the videos found on her channel shows that 5 of these 30 videos had been removed. However, there are videos on her channel with massive mistakes that still stand. A different possibility for the removal could be copyright claims. In fact, June 2020 marks the earliest, if not the first time, she was somewhat accused of, not exactly copyright, but rather plagiarism.
Coincidences happen, and I'm sure as a larger YouTuber, you're accused of stealing content from people you've never even heard of or seen before. So I get it if this message comes across that way.
That was creator Cruel World Happy Mind. On April 23, 2020, she released her video on Tyra Banks. Then on May 20, 2020, she released a follow-up. A little over a week after, Blair released her video on Tyra Banks that is suspiciously similar to Cruel World's videos. Viewers informed Cruel World of this, which is when she messaged Blair. Nothing came of this, until Blair decided to speak vaguely upon the drama in a podcast. This is that audio.
I'm going to try and keep it vague so I don't mention this person's channel.
Yeah.
But it's a very small YouTuber, and she DM'd me on Instagram, and she goes, "I'm just really disappointed because you're someone I look up to, and you copied my video, and I want credit." Right? So I didn't know who this person was. So I went to my moderators in my Discord server, and I was like, "Hey," I screenshotted the message, I sent it to them, and I said, "Do you know, is this a YouTuber? Can you guys like tell me who this is or what they're even talking about? Because I had no idea."
Yeah.
They come back to me. It's this small channel, I'll just say less than 50,000 subscribers at the time. And she sources me. She uses me as a source in her videos, for one. So I found it kind of funny.
Blair's saving grace is she did not mention Cruel World by name.
Obviously, the first thing I did before even looking at her videos is I went to look at her sourcing list, because I think that's really important, is what do you use? And she had 5 sources. You know, I have to use a pastebin document because I have anywhere 30 to 70 sources per video. I don't play around. But she had like 5 sources. You know, one was Wikipedia, one was BuzzFeed, one was like TMZ or something.
Oh my god.
The most, you know, oh god.
And those sources are okay for a reference on certain things. Like I use Wikipedia as a starting point.
These statements are false. Cruel World does not cite Wikipedia a single time in either of her videos. Going to a Wayback Machine screenshot of Wikipedia of May 2020 and cross-referencing the sources in the video's descriptions shows that not one of Cruel World's sources are actually found on Wikipedia. Moreover, though Blair inflates her sourcing list to averaging 30 to 70, it often hovers around 20. And looking at Blair's sources for her Tyra Banks video reveals not only her citing Wikipedia, but also citing 4 of the 6 sources found in one of Cruel World's videos. Looking at Cruel World's second video, it has 2 sources. That is, if you did not read. The first link is a link to BuzzFeed, but it was stating that it was Tyra responding to the backlash after Cruel World released the video. This is not a source. Blair is also an avid user of Wikipedia. The first available video on her channel about MLMs lists Wikipedia as nearly 1/3 of its sources. Even with this ease of information, she still gets information wrong.
One of the earliest MLMs, or what we consider currently to be an MLM started all the way back in 1934, is a company called Neutralite.
The top of the wiki states that while the products were being developed in 1934, The second paragraph clarifies that it was not until 1939 that it was renamed Neutralite. This holds true with Neutralite Products Incorporated as found on California's Secretary of State website. This is to say that not only is Cruel World not guilty of what Blair is accusing her of, Blair is guilty of almost all of it.
And just gives her opinion on how she feels about things. And I said, you cannot believe for 1 second, ma'am, that I am copying you. You are giving an opinion. I don't do that. In my opinion, Tyra realized what it really means to be an MLM and the legal hoops you have to jump through.
It hardly ends here.
You're looking at how I outline my videos, you're trying to replicate that, and then when I cover a topic that you've already covered, I guess, then you say that I'm copying you, but I was like, honey, I've been doing the same thing, like that's not my fault.
Blair did not cover Tyra Banks before Cruel World. Furthermore, Blair mentions the stealing of an outline. An outline is the foundation of the video. It's its skeleton that is filled in. Comparing Blair's video to Cruel World's first video shows some stark commonalities in how they're outlined. It is less about the similar information that appears, but how often it is presented in a similar sequence.
She has a ton of controversy surrounding America's Next Top Model, and I've got quite a few issues with her, really.
The company Tyra Beauty was, of course, flawlessly launched through an America's Next Top Model episode.
In 2012, Banks told anyone and everyone that she graduated from Harvard Business School posing for pictures with her supposed diploma. But as Jezebel, another news source, reported, she was in fact graduated from the Owner-President Management Program at Harvard, a non-degree granting certificate course at Harvard.
Okay, I just had to talk about this. In this video and also online, Tyra talks about her Harvard Business School graduation. But this is not the Master's in Business Administration degree that Tyra received. In fact, she only attended a course called the Owner-President Management Extension Program. That's not part of the school's master's degree.
The Why I Started Tyra Beauty commercial or recruitment ad or whatever you want to call it is a classic MLM stuff.
But the most upsetting video of all of this, I have to say, is Tyra Banks' video of why I created Tyra Beauty.
It could be a coincidence that many of these videos were presented following one another, but videos like these can be presented vastly different. It can start chronologically, starting from Tyra mentioning her mom, or even customer reviews to foreshadow the disappointment. This is all suspicious considering, according to Cruel World, Blair did not post her sources until confronted.
There were no sources on this person's video. The only thing it had in the description was in parentheses, sources coming soon.
On February 6, 2021, Cruel World addressed this in a video. Also choosing to keep Blair anonymous, Cruel World summarizes the happenings up to this point, giving Blair the benefit of the doubt, writing off these similarities as a coincidence. However, when Cruel World was made aware of the comments Blair made on the podcast and 2 Instagram stories that Cruel World alleges existed, her tone changed.
This is where it gets really weird and really shocking. This person makes another Instagram story where they say something along the lines of alluding to the fact that I'm untrustworthy because my profile shows up on a website that's supposedly about buying YouTube bots.
The indirect nature of this confrontation thus far has made this confusing. The lack of sources make it difficult to follow up on Cruel World's claims. But what she does present is enough to piece together how this ended. First, Blair was alluding to doing a debunking stream. Then by February 8th, this tension was aired out. It was made clear that Cruel World was talking about Blair and vice versa. Blair, in a message to Cruel World, claims that Cruel World was responsible for ripping the veil of their previously obscured conflict. But Blair extends the olive branch by asking, quote, "Is there some common ground we could find in this?" Unquote. After a 3-hour-long phone call, the issue was resolved. Blair states she will not go forward with her livestream, and in return, Cruel World would be, quote, removing her part about me and a video she recently did, unquote. This is the video in question, and that section is indeed missing. It is now only found archived through videos dissecting their conflict. This story, the way it was all going on without the knowledge of viewers, only for it to be all revealed and blow up spectacularly, would repeat on a far larger scale. It would involve more people, have far worse claims, and damage virtually all those involved. This upcoming conflict, where Blair is at the center, will not end with reconciliation. This begins with Sad Milk. The channel had progressively taken more effort than it was worth. From a business standpoint, the growth was abysmal in comparison to the individual growth of the channels involved. From a retrospective angle, the channel was the beginning of a long road of suffering for many involved, even past its dissolution. By mid-2020, tensions were rising with its collaborators. There was conflict with deciding editing costs, scheduling times to record made more difficult with different creators living in far different time zones, and then there was Blair who had control in the absence of leadership. The first outward signs of its collapse came in October 2020. Sometime between October 2nd and October 16th, collaborators One Topic and The Click were removed from the list of channel members found on the home page. Behind the scenes, a meeting was called to address some of the rising issues. Blair claims to have not wanted to attend due to her frustration with the responsibilities. After joining the meeting regardless of this wish, she eventually shouted at One Topic and said something along the lines of, "Shut the fuck up." One Topic left the call due to this outburst. Then on October 9th, he announced to the group that he was stepping away from the project. The following day, The Click left as well. This was not announced to the public until November 1st, 2020, which also announced the departure of a different member. As The Click will later point out, only 3 hours from this announcement, Blair tweeted, quote, "Casual reminder, pedophilia is never a quote-unquote gray area. It's wrong. If someone you know won't take actions, then they are complicit to the problem," unquote. The Click claims that with Sad Milk retweeting Blair, it stirred up rumors about why they left. This was the intended effect and is tied to what was previously a resolved issue that began in September. This screenshot was of a 19-year-old Discord user stating that they were dating a 13-year-old. This user even states that they got in contact on TeamSpeak, not the Click server, which is where this was all being posted. It did not take long for this admission to come to the attention of server mods, whose some were also the shared mods of Blair. The user was banned shortly after and allegedly reported to Discord's trust and safety team. In a message to One Topic, she makes the allegation that the Click knew this was happening. However, the Click alleges that since this was 2 a.m. his time, he was asleep when this was all happening, and woke up to the chaos of what happened, made all the more confusing since the user was already banned. The Click and Blair discussed this, with Blair stating that she was proud of the Click. This brings us back to the tweet Blair had made a month and a half after the events were seemingly resolved. Now Blair was actively trying to harm the Click. In this leaked Discord screenshot, Blair states she is writing a piece about Sad Milk, but it is written from the third person. Quote, "I saw the Sad Milk announcement," unquote. This is quite strange considering she is the one who wrote said announcement. Strange until it was posted not under Blair's account, but this account that went under Doobie Schmertz. It believes there is a piece of the puzzle missing. With little to no traction following the insinuation Blair had made, this post was attempting to nudge interest towards it. Quote, "Like, it really looks like, quote-unquote, creative differences, is dumb AF. Blair tweeting about being stabbed in the back, One Topic leaving his supporter server, and then watching so many of his mods disappear, and Wonderstruck talking about how he hates friends fighting, and even Clicky not streaming as much and deleting some of his streams and clips. I think something happened, guys. I think I figured out what really happened," unquote. The discovery was that this, quote-unquote, anonymous user pieced together that Blair saw the Click's older videos and found out that Click had used the R slur, then goes on to say, quote, "As an autist, I was mad he would call a Minecraft zombie that word," unquote. This is the crux of the post, but it's also important to mention it praises Blair. Quote, "Blair is a big supporter of the community and awesome. I love her videos about exposing Autism Speaks. I think Blair found out about this and fought with him about it," unquote. The user then points to another video of the Click saying the F slur. Quote, "I think all of Sad Milk knows about these videos. I think he chose not to delete it, and it caused the fight," unquote. This is a gross sowing of a conspiracy theory that did not at all reflect what actually happened. The top comment should have clarified how little viewers cared. Quote, "Click has said that he was much less open-minded in the past, and considering the fact that these are from 2010, I think he has grown a lot as a person since then. Honestly, while you do bring up a good few points, I don't think we should start a heck ton of rumors about this situation. I don't want it to end up like it did with Flinders, where people were making theories left and right. Though unfortunately, with a change this big, it's probably inevitable," unquote. A second post was made to draw attention to the Click saying the N-word in the past. This also failed to get any traction. And it was later revealed that Blair had also paid someone who goes as Felix the Kit Kat $200 to dig through the raw audio of Sad Milk to find Click using the R word. Seeing how Redditors were forgiving of the word considering how long ago he said it, Blair was looking for a more recent example, though her efforts would eventually only harm her own reputation. For the time being, in mid-2021, after the conflict and resolution with Cruel World, while Sad Milk was absent of uploads, it was soon to be considered a dead channel. Blair made new efforts to improve relations with some of the remaining Sad Milk cast. Oz Media was a given being that they were in a relationship and had moved in together at Oz's new house. The other person of note was Wonderstruck Guy, who moved in shortly after Oz and Blair did. Blair hired Wonder June 7th as an editor with a starting salary of $50,000. His role was not under Blair's main channel, but her second channel, iilluminaughtii, a channel that mostly hosted clips of her live streams. There was not much work for Wonder to do during this period, a fact that displeased both Blair and Wonder. In this mix were plans for Wonder to become a tenant of Blair's, though those never materialized. But the BMW did. One that Oz and Blair paid a significant down payment on and entered into a questionable rent-to-own contract with Wonder. From just June to July, Wonder would not only be fired from his position, but would also lose this car. As Wonder claims, when editing one of iilluminaughtie's videos, his software corrupted due to a faulty GPU. To reach the deadline, he flew back to Texas to get a different computer to finish the job. There was some leeway here in that the deadline was pushed back from July 26th to August 2nd. Or so it seemed, as he was fired July 27th for not meeting the prior deadline.
It was here on this call that I was fired for explicitly not meeting deadlines, which I find highly confusing due to once more I must reiterate that my deadline was August 2nd.
Wonder, with nothing left in Colorado, visited his father in Texas. But now came the issue of what to do with the car.
Oz gave me a set of options as to what I could do with the car, and I picked option 2, where it was agreed I would bring the car back to Colorado, gather my belongings, and I'd pay the value via regular payments, etc.
The contract Wonder signed, though it is disputable whether it was legally binding, stated that the car would reside in Colorado. The word reside, in legal speak, can mean that it is a place that one dwells continuously, a primary residence. So while Wonderstruck and the car were physically in Texas, it could be argued that because Colorado remained his legal residence, that much could also be applied to the car. This matters because Blair sought to repossess the car, and on July 29th, using the embedded GPS and a spare key, she flew to Texas and repossessed the vehicle in the middle of the night. Blair retrieved the vehicle in a suboptimal state. Besides some trash and clothing thrown about, there was physical damage to the glove box latch and a crack on the windshield. The crack was claimed to have been from rogue asphalt propelled from the car in front of him. Also in the car were various valuables, including 2 YouTube play buttons. Wonder would fight to retrieve his belongings through a demand letter, but his belongings were reportedly thrown away. This marks yet another relationship soured. Of all the prominent members of the now-defunct Sad Milk, Blair was now only on good terms with Oz. Then, in December of 2021, they ended their romantic relationship. But they still seemed to remain on good terms. Oz was even working for Blair informally even just 3 months prior to their breakup, which continued as he became an employee. But it turns out not for a good reason. Oz owed Blair money. She allegedly tried to get a custom multi-million-dollar house built with Oz, with him incurring 50% of the deposit and the like in an unwritten ledger owed to her. The kicker is, she canceled the project, meaning she forfeited that deposit, yet held Oz responsible for his half. What followed, bringing the timeline back to the romantic relationship ending, was Blair moving out to purchase her own home. Then around August 2022, she sold this home to commission a new build. With Oz suffering financially and his house nearing foreclosure, Blair footed 6 months of mortgage payments. This was added to the unwritten ledger until December of that year, when Oz signed documents that recorded this debt as liens against his house. This matters because it gave her the power, if she wanted, to foreclose on Oz's house. It is also alleged that Blair told Oz that signing these documents would mend their relationship. By January 2023, she had moved out and moved into a rental while she waited on her new house to close, though she left some of her belongings to be retrieved later. It was then that Oz accessed her computer and found out that she was seeing someone else. It's difficult to ascertain what type of relationship they held, as Oz told a different employee of Blair's that she cheated. Oz even reached out to Wonder to inform him about what happened. These documents, as have been shown on screen, were retrieved, highlighted, and censored by the channel Mad Catster, who redacted larger sections, whether due to personal information or the severity of what is being stated.
You know, when I first read the details of this, and I cried because it's just shocking. And that's all I'm going to say.
Oz was in an untenable position against Blair. Blair's channel from mid-2022 to 2023 was getting around 10 million views a month. With her frequent sponsorships, her earnings could be well over 6 figures. Oz's channel was getting at most 200,000 views, or around 1/50th of Blair's. This was made worse when he shifted his efforts to work on her channel. And even this turned out to be an unstable position. That much would be true for anyone working under iilluminaughtii. Blair had grown a reputation of producing half-decent video essays. She was someone who appeared compassionate, someone who cared about injustice. The question is, what happens when you turn all of this over and realize every aspect is not only false, but it is the opposite of what was being portrayed? What happens when the internet discovers something that looks innocent has been volatile the whole time? This is nitroglycerin. It feels slightly oily, it's slightly viscous, it tastes sweet. It appears unassuming. It is anything but. Nitroglycerin is a compound ready to explode. The lightest strike initiates a chain reaction.
I'm sure you all know why we're here. We are gathered here today in what might be the most comprehensive deep dive that I've done to lay to rest once and for all the pyramid-shaped, scandal-plagued global passion of Illuminaughtii.
Being that explosions are a chain reaction, one can follow the chain back to the catalyst: nitroglycerin, hammer; balloon, needle; and Illuminaughtii, legal eagle. On April 20th, 2023, Blair tweeted, quote, "Not at legal eagle editors broaching my editors to take my video style, and when they didn't give up the info, they literally copied it. And BTW, I have the messages from my editors and found an email from them too. Just changed the color from purple to blue. Huh, interesting." Unquote. Below, Blair posts the email in question, except the email is asking about how to make lighter colors stick out. It was not even the same effect. Beyond these tweets pointing out how this is a non-issue, there was Legal Eagle's tweet stating that his channel had been using those two styles before she did. In his second tweet, 7 minutes later, Legal Eagle responds, quote, "I think this is a misunderstanding. Maybe don't assume ill intent next time?" Unquote. This was all it took. Popular content creator H Bomber Guy responded with, quote, "I take plagiarism really seriously, so I am interested in an explanation. What exactly is wrong here?" Unquote.
Professor Hugh Fudenberg.
Professor Fudenberg has long been controversial.
A man named Hugh Fudenberg, a former immunologist who has been long controversial.
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit involving the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic child patients with blood products.
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit with the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic patients with blood products.
That was from Blair's video on vaccines, spliced in with Brian Deere's documentary, the one she plagiarized. The way H Bomber Guy discovered this was when he was making his own video on the subject, and while doing research, found that he had already seen her video, because he saw Brian Deere's documentary. He had been holding on to this information until now. This chain reaction led to The Click, Wonderstruck, Oz Media, and One Topic all making Twitter threads about the dissolution of Sandmilk and Blair, exposing her manipulative tactics through spreading of rumors, vying for control, and attempting to pit one against each other. Wonderstruck even posted a photo of her room captioned with, quote, "She lives like an actual monster. Her home is a mess. Like hoarder's bad." Unquote. Looking back at her social blade during this time, she had only lost 20,000 subscribers from April 20th to the 26th. The former Sandmill cast made their tweets from the 23rd to the 24th. However, Blair posted a response video on April 28th. On her social blade were the following days. She had now not only actively put a magnifying glass on her previous poor actions, she had also flat out lied throughout the video and made her case worse. The first topic was her apology to Legal Eagle. Then she moves on to H Bomber Guy's evidence of plagiarism, which she refutes. This is only 8 minutes into the video. The last 36 are on the former cast of Sad Milk. Here she apologizes for screaming at one topic. Then, when discussing the clique, she uses her entire hand. She talks about the clique using slurs in the past and possibly present, the predator that was banned from his Discord, and a previous time an admin of his showed porn to minors.
And let me be abundantly clear here, I am not trying to accuse the clique of pedophilia, nor do I have any reason to believe that he could be a pedophile. However, he cultivated an environment that was a breeding ground for inappropriate behavior with minors to occur.
Next on the chopping block was Wonderstruck. She brings forward their history while not mentioning her intention to be his landlord. She discusses how she repossessed the BMW, talks about the conflict between them and their dogs, and stated he was fired for not meeting deadlines while also not mentioning he was fired before his deadline extension. The last bit about Wonder airs out his mental health with the angle of showing it out of concern, and then she addresses the images of the messy room.
Furthermore, the photo he shows is a photo of a room that wasn't lived in by anyone in the house.
Finally, Blair discusses Oz, disappointed that they could not mend the relationship, and while grateful at all that he had contributed and the memories they made, she expresses that that ship has sailed.
I am disappointed in my behavior, and I hope that I can learn from all of this. I want to own up to my faults and take responsibility for my actions. Furthermore, I want to take responsibility for my own involvement with a crowd I am happy to no longer associate with.
Sad Milk, the invested time, money, energy, everything had its returns paid in red. As Blair had escalated this drama to YouTube, the former members released responses to this in not-so-quick succession. On May 2nd, the clique uploaded his response, clarifying that he was asleep when the predator was banned from his Discord, his lack of understanding of the culture around slurs in the English language, and Blair's part in it all.
Before we move on, I'm just gonna point out some funny hypocrisy. She said she would never be friends with someone that used that language, yet she regularly played games with me as a friend during this time, where I allegedly kept on saying these things. Which one is it? I don't think you can have both.
Revealed in this video was not only Blair's actions of paying an employee $200 to find instances of clique saying slurs, but also her alt account attached to the campaign.
Technically asking them to leave, I guess. It's probably worse. Going back to the rumor machine, here's the same chat room again. Here is the same account, Doobieschmerz on Twitter. This was an account I remember distinctly from 2020, 2021 that was relentlessly harassing myself, my friends, my colleagues, my streaming colleagues, past colleagues, ex-Sad Milk members, community members, you name it. You name it.
On May 11th, Wonderstruck released his video, which was more than twice as long as the clique's. It was here that he discusses his history with Blair, from Sad Milk, moving in with her and Oz when they were together, to eventually trying to become her tenant, to him getting fired and getting the BMW repossessed, and more recently the airing out of his mental health. It is important to note that Blair also stated that Wonderstruck was fired because of an inappropriate forum comment.
And the comment I made was supposed to be grounds for termination. I'd like to reiterate that means a total loss of income to a person. This was along the lines of the comment that I made. If I could be an animal for a day, I would be a furry, and my favorite food would be ass.
Before ending the video with an interview with Oz, Wonder clarifies how messy Blair was and that the one photo shared was not of an isolated incident.
These are the living conditions of Oz Media's home after Blair moved back in. Conditions he was embarrassed by. Boxes, trash, cups of mold, all sent to me again 2 years after I left Colorado.
I even remember on my 22nd birthday, I had asked, like, hey, can we please get like the kitchen and living room cleaned up so we actually have like a space to exist? And that was like my birthday present for that year.
While there were no additional response videos in May, coverage of Blair had picked up tremendously. She was kicked out of one of the podcasts she was part of and made a community post stating that she was taking these allegations seriously. By that, she means sending a cease and desist to Oz and Wonderstruck. In June, One Topic made his own video on Blair, which was comparatively short. This existed more so to corroborate the other stories and establish his own. The key point is corroboration. Blair had her claims against the former Sad Milk cast, but the Sad Milk cast had their own retorts and painted a clearer picture of what Blair claimed, and directly and indirectly supported one another against her. As possibly her only defense, she continued action on the legal front, filing a civil protection order against Oz and Wonderstruck, which failed to go through. Blair later tried restraining orders, which also failed to go through. Still in June, Cruel World released her video covering the aforementioned videos on Blair and her own history with her. it is difficult to say what action was the most destructive to her viewer base, whether it was her video or sending out the cease and desist. Whatever it was, viewership fell drastically, down 95% from April 2023 to August of the same year. Within this period, Blair was still posting regularly. From September 16th to August 1st, she earned $2,300. This was not bad compared to your average YouTube channel, until you factor in that a year ago she made $47,000 in the same period last year. Also not mentioned are the employees kept on payroll. This was hardly the only blow to her finances, as the legal fees she would incur would no doubt increase. But there was a solution. She could foreclose on Oz's house to get some of the money owed quicker. This is why on September 16th, 2023, Oz made a video talking about the foreclosure, the GoFundMe to pay for it, and an upcoming video on Blair of sizable length.
I've put a lot of things in my life on hold to produce this video, ending up with nearly 110 pages of a manuscript which details as much of what I can. And let me tell you something, converting this monstrosity into a video with its accompanying half-thousand screenshots has been one hell of a monumental task for me, a one-person team to embark on.
Though the GoFundMe will surpass the goal of $4,000, it would not be enough for the upcoming lawsuit. Oz was made aware of Blair's legal filings on September 27th. She was suing Oz Media, Wonderstruck, and a different employee known as Felix the Kit Kat, who was paid to dig up dirt on the clique, but also informed the clique of such actions. Though Blair's channel already appeared to be irrecoverable by late 2023, there were two aspects that solidified this. One was the ongoing lawsuit. Where other creators could work their way through controversies, Blair's ongoing lawsuit was a looming reminder of her controversies. One that has the added element of suing the weakest parties in what appears to be an act of revenge rather than redemption. This emphasizes the conflicting images of Illuminati, the righteous expose channel, and Blair, the litigious manipulator. The second aspect is more straightforward in the fact that her videos are passable, and once exposed to that fact, it is harder to look at them the same way. It is this feeling and grander concept of plagiarism that HBomberGuy tackles in his video, Plagiarism and YouTube. While Blair's section is only around 40 minutes of his nearly 4-hour-long video, it hammers in the issues with Blair's content, demeanor, response video, and the problem with content mills like hers.
Blair watched a documentary and then downloaded it and used it to make her own. In the first 20 minutes, she plays a chunk of the documentary, or just quotes it, 25 times. More than once a minute, you're hearing something Brian Deere said, from his mouth or hers.
That was the same documentary that HBomberGuy covered in his video on vaccines, and the one he sourced his tweets towards Blair from. HBomberGuy's video sits at 36 million views. Being that Blair's section is relatively early on in the video, undoubtedly, many new people were given the tools to understand why her videos are poorly made. Only 3 days later, on his second channel, HBomberGuy released a 20-minute video solely on Blair. This covers how her videos were sometimes built on misinformation, which makes the point of the video moot and damaging. In similar fashion to how he exposed Blair's plagiarism of Brian Deere's documentary, he shows how she did it with documentaries covering the Fire Festival. This video, while receiving less viewership than his plagiarism video, was still more viewed than even her most viewed video, and through examining many of Blair's videos, he is correct. This is easiest to explain when starting from the beginning of her growth. These contain a selection of popular Reddit posts only tied together through the theme of the subreddit, and to that extent, her videos reading them. This format is so close to her video essays, it is almost unbelievable. To break this down, she gathers articles, videos, whatever is easiest to get on any given topic, and presents it with little to no connecting tissue or analysis, practically sacrificing quality for the sake of faster uploads. A good example of this is her video titled, The Myth of the Lazy Millennial, and Why Gen Z is Next. In this video, Blair summarizes article after article which are only loosely related to the subject matter. The video is attempting to dispel this myth, but for some reason, Blair is focusing on industries millennials are blamed for killing, and somehow she contradicts her own sources.
Laziest generation, according to boomers of course, is trying its best to off the common 9-to-5 workflow that Dolly Parton sang against about 3 decades ago. And Dolly Parton is most certainly not a millennial, and that song seems to show that even she understands the 9-to-5 labor structure is bullshit.
Blair, in her sources page, links to this page about the song 9 to 5, which explains the song was about gender inequality. This video, like many of Blair's, are carried by article after article after article, and if one ends, then it's on to the next article, instead of treating any of these as a jumping off point into her own analysis. To add to the problem, she trusts and quotes sources blindly. Side note, Blair in her expose video states that her plagiarism of Brian Deere's documentary was an oversight, particularly in how she played a section of the documentary, only to then quote it without making it clear she was doing so.
Since then, I have learned to be much more overt and obvious with citations, something that may not have been perfectly clear to me 3 years ago. I apologize for the oversight of not making that quote more clear.
In fairness, her vaccine video was several years ago, but the millennial video was only around 4 months before she made that statement, and lo and behold.
Interesting about these mechanisms, though, is that the better we see our past or the more we excel at certain traits, the more we tend to see the youth as deficient in those specific areas. For example, very intelligent people will perceive today's youth to be especially less intelligent. Well-read people will especially think today's youth don't like reading. And authoritarian people will think that kids these days are less respectful.
To clarify, Blair does add her own commentary, her own through line or message, but it doesn't work. This is Blair's conclusion to her video.
It's hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes, but maybe we should give it a try. There always seems to be just one little tiny thing missing: consideration.
Then, this is her commentary from the very same video.
The laziest generation, according to boomers. The cliche became so widespread that millennials couldn't even attend a family holiday dinner without hearing from their overly opinionated uncle about how their sense of entitlement and their poor attitude was killing his beloved sport of golf. They know what things were like for them, but don't see how it's different for the younger generations. And spoiler alert, boomers inadvertently made it worse. It almost comes as no surprise then that millennials and Gen Z are treating the boomer generation the same way you'd treat an incessant know-it-all who's always trying to one-up you at every turn. They're just turning away and ignoring them.
This video is a hodgepodge of loosely related articles. It gives credence to divisive articles, but later acknowledges those articles are as such, but only after she had retorted in the same fashion. What's more, the video is a corporate casket video, which is meant to focus on businesses. But it can be argued that it is business related. That argument cannot be made for this next video.
Hello and welcome to the Corporate Casket, a semi-weekly series where bad businesses go to die. We will discuss any and everything from bad charities, terrible CEOs, and businesses that have a lot to hide. I'm the Illuminaughtii, and today, unfortunately, we're going to be talking about—
Blair is talking about pedophiles in a series meant to cover corporations. But not just any pedophiles, maps specifically. There are large issues with the video's focus and some misspeaking, which is common in any video, but is strange in this one because she goes from pronouncing virtuous pedophiles correctly to calling them virtual.
They call themselves virtual pedophiles, or VERPED for short,
even going against what the quote says on screen.
In regards to these virtual pedophiles entering the LGBTQ+ community,
this video goes widely off topic to pedophiles in general. The one tangent that seems to be going somewhere is just her alluding to the click situation before it came out.
As kind of an offset tangent, I remember there was someone I used to be friends with who ran a Discord server, and my friends and I found out that there was someone in that server who was above the age of 18, like explicitly talking about how they were in love or like in a relationship of some gross fucking variety with a 14-year-old. And then I stopped being friends with that person because that person wouldn't do anything about it. And they go, well, that's their personal life, like they can deal with it. And I was like, what the fuck?
In her own tangent, she even gets the timeline wrong. The Discord fiasco took place in September 2020 when she stated she was proud of him. It was only after the click left a month later that she became hostile towards him. And before moving on, here is another example of spreading misinformation.
So, way back in his first few YouTube videos, he's given multiple tutorials on how to scam other RuneScape players out of their high-level armor. He himself has 3 separate tutorials on how to pull off these types of scams.
That is a video on Ice Poseidon. If she did minimal research into the game, looked at the comments, or even searched the value of the in-game items, she would have found in Scam Video 1, Ice is overpaying for the armor he is quote-unquote scamming. In Scam Video 2, he is making players open a chest for him. In Scam Video 3, he is trading rare gilded armor for basic rune. She fell for his ancient bait. In this same video, she states,
he was banned from Twitch altogether in 2017 for having someone call in a bomb threat on a plane he was boarding.
This is also false. Ice Poseidon would have gone to jail if this were the case. What really happened was that he said his gate number on stream. This is all to say her videos are shallow in research, in her own interest of the subjects she covers, and in her analysis if there is any to be found. That last statement, at times, can be taken quite literally.
But what about other storms? And why does this keep happening?
In this December 28th, 2023 video that is still up at the time of writing, Blair's narration cuts out for 5 minutes as HBomberGuy pointed out on his Twitter. Past December 2023, her channel would hit a new viewership low. Her monthly views were dipping below 200,000. A year prior, if a single video only got 200,000, it would be considered a failure. While one can attribute HBomberGuy to this decrease, Blair only uploaded 5 videos in 2024, which is the more likely cause to this steep decline. With her channel now dead, the only evidence of her existence online would be the ongoing lawsuit. Month after month, there was very little in terms of updates. It was not until June 1st that there was a major update, through Oz. In this just over hour-long video, Oz states that the lawsuit has cost $40,000 so far. This is why he launched a second GoFundMe. This was a legal fund for not just Oz, but also the other defendants involved in the case. Being that the legal process is slow, especially considering Blair's failures to substantiate her claims in her lawsuit, meaning that she had to continually amend her side, allowed only by a very generous judge. Overall, Oz describes the progress of the lawsuit and Blair's claims, and makes a clear intention that because of stressors in and outside the lawsuit, settling would be optimal if they cannot get the case dismissed. This seemed to be more and more the case. They could not even get Felix's case dismissed, which was due to an alleged breach of contract when he came forward with the information that he was paid to dig up dirt on the click. Even though that happened before he signed an NDA, was employed by a separate company of hers, and it was arguable that the payment was not even a business transaction. Blair's lawsuit is absurd.
In 2020, Blair had revealed to me that she had used a service to scrub her Twitter of all and any inappropriate or cancelable language that she may have tweeted. Evidence of this can actually be found by the fact that there's a massive removal of tweets on a single day shown by her social blade. As I've come to learn, that service that Blair used to mass delete tweets doesn't scan media or screenshots. Blair famously went after Click for using the R word 14 years ago. Blair at one point has stated that the word has never been in her vocabulary and that even with 10 years of time, it's inexcusable that he would use this word. Blair can be seen in this tweet using the exact word in question that she condemns and damns others for using, only 3 years prior to her stating that word was never in my vocabulary.
While Oz failed to link to this tweet, it very much exists and is still up. The reason this lie and hypocrisy matters is because of what Blair alleges in the lawsuit.
Blair asked Felix to find Mark Drek saying the R slur in Sad Milk's raw audio. 120. Defendant Felix then asserts that Blair, though she publicly disapproves of the R slur, uses it in private. 121. This statement carries a defamatory meaning because it implies that Blair is both a hypocrite and a bigot. Her words, not mine.
In a short update Oz released in October, Oz stated that the negotiations have failed, and the cost had inflated to $80,000, even though the lawsuit had yet to enter discovery. Things were looking grim. Then, there was one final update, released at the start of 2025.
Blair and I have agreed to settle this matter confidentially through mediation. The lawsuit has been dismissed against all parties without any admission of fault by any party. As a part of the non-disclosure agreement, it should be known that Blair will not be sharing her side of the story behind this dispute, nor will I. No one should contact either of us further about this case or ask us to comment on it, or each other. As I have stated previously, anyone following me should never make threatening remarks to anyone involved in this case in a public or private forum.
That was it. The lawsuit was over. But the truth is, Blair is still out there. And so is the belief that with her managerial skills, she could survive on the platform.
After that, she's going to start another channel using an AI voice model in order to keep doing these same kind of videos but start fresh and hope people don't connect her to it. That's my guess. Because before all of this came to light, she was getting like 100 to 300k views per video.
This is Thinkology. It is her channel. Thinkology launched late 2021 and never picked up. The most popular video out of 47 got 67,000 views. This, compared to iilluminaughtii, puts it in the bottom 12% of videos. And if compared by the top 3 that sits at 15,000 views, not a single video on her channel sits below that number. Blair began creating video essays in a time they were in high demand, and that demand was not being met. She cast a wide net with her wide range of videos. Because of her consistency, she was able to keep this audience, gaining more and more views, likely due to habit-forming viewership rather than the quality of her videos. But now with that momentum gone, her videos could not stand by themselves. Any video done on the same topic with any significant research or captivating perspective can overtake any of hers. There are channels that only upload once a year, if even that get over 1 million views monthly. iilluminaughtii, even with a massive catalog of 644,000, barely reaches 100,000 a month. The chances of her replicating her tremendous success now are unlikely, as the elements of her initial success are no longer there. Gone now and possibly forever was a job that earned her over $1 million a year. Blair was at the top only to be brought down by the trap she set, the people she tried to control, and the history she tried to erase. Thank you again to the sponsor of this video, MyHeritage. Click the link in the description box or scan the QR code and use the coupon code JTK to receive a 10% discount when ordering a kit.